Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Beanie. Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be starting on the first of a few review videos that I plan on doing this week. First, I'm going to start out. We've had a lot of new cards and a lot of new content come out lately, so I'm going to kind of break it up. Today, I'm going to be reviewing all of the new career arcs that came out. Some of the best cards in the game that aren't immortals are in these career arcs, so I'm very excited to review those. Tomorrow, I'm going to be reviewing all of the all-star stuff, the Zack Greinke, the Tony Gwynn, the new Andre Dawson, all of those cards. We are going to be reviewing those, so I kind of look forward to that. And then the next day, we are going to be reviewing the Immortals. I have not put out an Immortal review yet, and we're going to be doing those. We're going to see how many perfect scores get put out for them, how many aren't perfect scores, and we're going to be doing that. So yeah, let's get started today with the career arcs. Okay, starting out here, we're going to start with the relief pitchers and the 89 overall Rollie Fingers. This is a card that everybody, I don't know, it seems like every year everybody kind of undersells how good this card can be, and this year is no different. I see a lot of people really passing over this card. I don't really know why, because there are a lot of things to like about this card. Let's start with his per nines. He doesn't have those dominant per nines that you expect from some of your relievers. You know, a lot of relievers are really like big time PCI shrinkers that have like 125 hit K per nine and stuff like that. This guy doesn't have that, even though he does have 101 K per nine and 92 hit per nine. I mean, that is, if he were a starting pitcher, that would be definitely elite. But for relief pitchers, it's just very, very good. It's not elite. So a lot of people pass over him for that reason, but it's still very good. And he also has excellent control to go along with it. His stuff is better than you would think. Yeah, he doesn't throw 99, but he does have a 93 mile an hour sinker with really good break on it, and that is a devastating pitch. I would almost rather have that than the 100 mile an hour fastball that's straight. Sinkers to me are way harder to hit, and they're way more effective if you can locate them well. And the fact that he has the 86 walk per nine to go with that sinker means that you're really going to be able to pinpoint it on the inside corner and get a lot of weakly hit balls. So I really do like that sinker. He has a solid slider to go along with it, and then he has a nice little 80 mile per hour forkball that'll kind of act like a changeup or a split finger or something like that, and give you a nice speed differential, a nice change of pace that you can work with. Solid pitch selection. I would like it if he had more something that was a little bit more vertical, like a curveball or something like that. But for the most part, overall, very solid card, especially against right-handed hitters. I don't necessarily think he'd be a righty specialist. I do think that he could pitch to lefties as well, but I think that he is going to be a little bit more effective against righties. So for that reason, I ended up giving him a fag of an 8.0. Okay, next up we have the 92 overall Rob Nen, and this guy is more conventional whenever you think about those dominant back end of the bullpen type relievers. 92 overall Rob Nen, he's got excellent per nines, basically elite per nines, 110, 113, extremely good. His walk per nine, though, is kind of where he's not as good as the Rollie Fingers. So if you're someone that wants someone that has pinpoint control, this isn't going to be that guy, but he's not going to be super wild either. 66 walk per nine is fine. Like, it's not going to be that big of a deal for you. But this card's big time selling point is his per nines, and then that dominant stuff. 97 velo, 98 break. He throws his four-seam fastball at 99 miles per hour. Can probably easily touch 100 every now and then. He's also got a slider that he throws at 92. That's a very hard slider, more of it'll probably act more like a cutter than it will a slider, but the good thing about that is you can throw it pretty effectively to lefties as well as righties, whereas a slower slider, you might not want to do that because you can turn on it a little bit more easily, but at 92, it's going to be really easy to run that in on lefties' hands. Then he's got that 91 mile per hour splitter that'll probably act kind of like a changeup. I don't expect this pitch to be one of his better pitches because he just throws it a little bit too hard, and typically it'd be nicer if he had that in like the mid 80s or something, but I'm sure that against lefties or something like that, you could get some swings and misses, you could get some rollovers. on that pitch. So it's not a bad pitch. It's just not his best pitch. But then for his real change of pace pitch, it's that 83 mile per hour curveball. For a guy that's throwing like 99, 100, that's a big slow, or it's going to look like a big slow curveball coming in. It's going to really throw your opponent off balance, and timing is going to be very difficult for your opponent, especially whenever you mix in the fact that he's going to have a very small PCI with this Rob Nens per nines. So overall, great pitcher. A guy that if you weren't so difficult to grind, I would definitely go after. And still, probably by the end of the year, this is going to be a guy that I'll have on my team. So I really like this card. I think everybody is going to be kind of, slowly going after him. And it might be a little later on in the year whenever everybody gets him. But eventually, I think this is going to be a card that almost everybody has. So yeah, I ended up giving him a fag of an 8.9. Okay, now on to the starting pitchers. We're going to start off with the best of the crop, in my opinion, and that is the 92 overall CC Sabathia. He's a lefty, which is a nice little bonus. I think lefties can be a little bit more effective this year with how teams construct their lineups and everything. He throws hard. He's got a 95 mile per hour fastball, a 94 mile per hour sinker, which is brutal from the left side. I mean, that's a very tough pitch to hit. He's got 86 mile per hour changeup, which isn't fantastic, but it's pretty good. 81 mile per hour slider, which in my opinion is his best secondary offering. That's a very slow slider, so against lefties that's going to be extremely effective. And then a big 78 mile per hour curveball to really start to throw your opponents off balance. His per nines are, I don't know, I would say they're solid for a starting pitcher. They're not great. They're not like way like elite territory or anything like that. They're very solid. The 78 hit per nine is a little bit concerning, but with that 90K per nine, it kind of makes up for it a little bit. He also is the guy that kind of like that Rollie Fingers is going to have better control than your average pitcher. And that could help you really hit your spots and really kind of maybe mitigate that 78 hit per nine. So in the whole picture, it's a very balanced pitcher. It's a guy that I want to have on my team, and he's the guy that I was kind of grinding for while doing all the other career arcs as well. So hopefully I'll have him sometime soon. But right now I ended up giving him a fag of an 8.4. Alright, after him is the 92 overall Fergie Jenkins, and this is definitely a card that a lot of people are going to overlook, and I almost made that mistake whenever I saw that he came out originally, but I've kind of changed my tune on him a little bit for one very specific reason, and we'll get to that in just a second. But first off, starting with his hit and K per nine, they're not that great. They're average, I would say. They're maybe even like good. His per nines are basically the equivalent of like a really good silver card or something like that, which with a 92 overall diamond, you want him to be a little bit better. But then he does have that elite territory walk per nine, that 97 walk per nine. That is fantastic walk per nine. So he's going to be pinpoint accurate. Maybe that can mitigate a little bit of that. Maybe that 74 hit per nine isn't going to be that bad anymore. But still, he's not going to be a PCI shrinker. That's not going to be his game. And then you look at his stuff and you're like, man, that 74 hit per nine with that 72 velo, like I don't know if I can work with this. But he does throw that four-seam fastball at 94 miles per hour. So that's why I say you can't always just look at the velo side of it, because they may throw harder than what it seems like, because I think that CC Sabathia has like, you see, he has 90 velo and he only throws 1 mile per hour harder than that than the Fergie Jenkins, but the reason is because that 90 velo is attached to his sinker and not his four seam, so that can be very deceptive sometimes. But this card, his calling card is not going to be velo. 94 is fine. That's enough to throw it by some people, not your elite players, but some people. The big calling card is just how off balance this guy is going to be able to keep you. He has an 86 mile per hour slider, which is solid. That's a pretty solid slider. But then he has a 78 mile an hour curveball, and the big selling point, the 78 mile per hour fork ball. That fork ball is going to act like a splitter or a changeup. and it's going to be devastating to your opponent. Going from 94 to a 16 mile per hour delta to a 78 mile per hour forkball, that is going to keep lefties off balance like crazy. He also has a pretty deceptive delivery that he brings it with. So I love that. I don't love this card. I don't think it's going to be like an elite pitcher, but I think that he is going to be one of the most underrated pitchers. Like, a lot of people are going to go in there, they're going to see this Fergie Jenkins, and they're going to be like, oh man, I'm going to murder this guy. He's not that good. And then he's going to come with that 94 fastball and then that 78 mile per hour forkball, and it's going to have you spinning in circles. So very solid card. I really like this card, and I ended up giving it a fag of an 8.1. Next up is the 89 overall Zack Greinke. I do feel like this is probably the least good of all the starting pitchers. Once again, he doesn't have like elite level per nines or anything, just solid per nines, kind of across the board, 76, 87. Even his walk per nine is kind of in that just like good range, not elite, not terrible, just good. And then his stuff, honestly, this guy is just kind of like good across the board. Like, he's not great, he's not elite, but he's not bad in any one thing. And maybe that is kind of appealing to have more of like a balanced type guy. But there's nothing that really stands out a whole lot about this card. He has a 94 mile per hour fastball, 86 slider, solid two-seamer, and then maybe the curveball stands out a little bit. That 73 mile per hour curveball, that's going to be kind of an ephus type pitch that maybe you can use to some effect. I don't know. I haven't faced many of those, and usually when I do, they're not that tough to hit. But he does also have an 83 mile per hour changeup, which is a nice little 11 mile per hour delta, which is solid. I wonder, with his lack of per nines and lack of kind of a standout pitch, I do wonder how effective he'll be. So I ended up giving him a fag of a 7.7. Okay, now on to the position players, and I'm going to start out with the guys that I was a little bit disappointed in. And the first one is the 92 overall Roberto Alomar. Now, everybody remembers that Roberto Alomar card from last year. He had 90-plus contact versus both sides with 90-plus vision. Then he had, like, upper 70s power. He was fantastic on defense. He had great speed. Well, this card is very similar, except he's not as balanced of a hitter, and he has very little power. He's not completely devoid of power. 52 is enough to like hit gaps occasionally, but you really have to like square up the ball really good. And even that's no guarantee that you're going to get any exit velo on it. It's kind of a dice roll, and he doesn't have the best end of it. The lack of power, man, is really disappointing, man. Whenever I saw that they were coming out with a Roberto, I was like, yes, this is going to be fucking awesome. He's going to be really easy to get. He's going to be awesome. He's just not, man. He hits righties okay, 118, 52 power. And then he had, like, versus lefties, he's actually pretty bad, 71, 47. Like, that's not good at all. He does have 97 vision, so you're probably not going to have any PCI problems. But with that lack of power, it's like, man. But the good thing about this card, though, is it does have great fielding. It does have great speed, a good arm at second base. He is a switch hitter. Like, there are things to like about this card. I don't know how they gave him Diamond Shield hitting, though, because that should not be a Diamond Shield hitter. I don't get it. I don't get what they were trying to go for with this Roberto Alomar. But, you know, it is what it is, and he is an above-average card, but just compared to last year, man, it's just not that exciting of a card. So I ended up giving him a fag of a 6.6. Next up is another card that I was pretty disappointed in, the 92 overall Barry Larkin card. This card is a little bit better than the Alomar, in my opinion, just because he does have some power at some point. You know, he's a solid hitter. I mean, versus righties, 98-42, not quite as good as the Alomar, but, you know, still like kind of around the same territory. But then against lefties, he has 78 contact with 89 power, 97 vision. He's going to be a very good hitter versus lefties, and that's a bonus. That's a big deal, because that means that this card is going to have some uses. Defensively, he's not going to be great, but he's going, well, I mean, yeah, he might be great, but he's not going to be elite level. And he has a solid arm to back that up. And he also has really good speed with fantastic stealing. So if you can manage to get this card on base, he's going to be an asset. But it's just going to be getting this card on base versus righties. That's going to be the big deal. If you're against a lefty, you're fine. But against righties, not so much. So I think that really hurts the value of this card a good bit. I do like it a little bit better than the Alomar, but not a whole lot. And I ended up giving it a fag of a 6.8. All right, next let's talk about the 93 overall Albert Bell. This is a big-time bat in left field. One of the best hitting left fielders or corner outfielders in the game right now, especially versus righties. I mean, 96, 116, my God. That is an absolute monster. I believe this is from the year that he hit 50 home runs and 50 doubles in one season, which is absurd. Versus lefties, 81, 79, that's perfectly fine too. He's probably going to be, you know, maybe not one of your better hitters, but he's going to fit in perfectly fine against lefties as well. But against righties, I mean, that's this card's big selling point. Then defensively, you know, he's a bronze shield. He's not like anything to write home about, but I've seen worse defenders in left field that don't give you this much offense. So it's a card that there's a lot to like about. And he has 55 speed, so he's not devoid of speed or anything like that. He's an athlete, but his big calling card is going to be that hitting versus righties. I mean, he's just a monster. So yeah, I ended up giving him a fag of an 8.4, mainly because left field really does weight hitting a lot more than it weights defense and speed. All right, next up is one of my personal favorites from these new career arcs that just got released, the 95 overall Johnny Bench. A lot of people may be looking at this card and be like, yeah, well, he's okay versus righties and great versus lefties, but he's only okay versus righties. Well, I mean, he's pretty good versus righties. 74-80 with 79 vision, that's pretty darn good. Yeah, against lefties, he's a maniac, but against righties, he is no scrub either. And then fielding-wise, he is going to be one of the best catchers in the game for you defensively. But then you got to think about it. You're going to be getting that Piazza probably. What do you do with this Johnny Bench card? Look up there at the secondary positions. He can play anywhere except middle infield. You have so many options with this card. You can get this guy into your lineup some way, somehow. You're going to be getting elite level defense, elite hitting versus lefties, and very good hitting versus righties. This card is so useful. Even if eventually you have to put him on your bench, he's still a fantastic defender. He's still going to murder lefties. I mean, like, there's so many uses for this card. One of my favorite cards that I've seen so far this year, not to say that he's one of the most valuable, but he is one of the most interesting and one of the most useful, if that makes sense. So I ended up giving him a fag of an 8.8. And yeah, just utility man of the century for sure. After him, we have the 94 overall Duke Snider, and I believe that this is the only lefty of this crop. I think the others are switch hitters and righties. So this is the only lefty hitter out of this crop, and he is a really good one, man. 91 contact, 105 power versus right, 95, 84 versus left, 81 vision, an extremely balanced lefty hitter. Going to be solid for you across the board, maybe even elite for you across the board. Definitely versus righties, he's going to be elite. But in center field, you do want to have a little bit of defense too, and he is pretty good defensively. I would say that his defense plays better in a corner, like in right field or in left field, preferably left field because he doesn't have the strongest arm. But if you play him in center, he's not going to be that bad. 83-80, that's perfectly fine. He doesn't have a ton of speed. I know a lot of guys like to get speed out of their center fielder, but he's not going to give you that. But that elite level hitting that you're getting, man, that's really, really valuable. So yeah, very valuable card, and I ended up giving him a fag of an 8.7. All right, next up we got the big hurt, the 97 overall Frank Thomas. Let's just get this out of the way right now. You aren't getting this card for defense. You aren't getting this card for speed. This is a big-time first baseman, a big-time bat. You aren't playing him anywhere else. You're just getting this card, sticking him at first base, and putting him there so that he can hit bombs for you. And this guy as a hitter is an immortal level hitter. He really is. Like, or maybe like just one tiny little baby step below immortal level hitting. Versus righties, 99-95 with 83 vision. And then against lefties, 125 contact with a 118 power, 125 discipline. It's just like, this guy is going to be probably, if you don't have any immortals, he is probably going to be your best hitter in your lineup. If you do have immortals, this guy is going to look perfectly fine stacking up there with the Ken Griffey's, with the Chipper Joneses, with all those guys. This guy is going to fit in perfectly. There is no need for you to get another first baseman after you get this guy, which is why I would suggest, if you do get this card, on your way to the 99 overall Albert Pujols, that you play this Albert Pujols at either third base, left field, or right field, because unless you just have a team full of immortals, you aren't going to get a better hitter than that Frank Thomas, and you want to get a hitter like this Albert Pujols, you want to get him in the lineup too. So yeah, I would play him somewhere else. This Frank Thomas is an absolute maniac for a first baseman. And because of that, I ended up giving him a FAG of a 9.3, which I believe is the highest FAG total that I've given out so far this year. We haven't done the Immortals yet, but for this Frank Thomas, I do believe that out of the cards I've reviewed, that this card is the best so far. And then the Frank Thomas immediately gets a big-time competitor for that spot. The 95 overall Mike Schmidt is the last card that we're going to be reviewing today. And oh my God, another basically immortal level card. Like, he's not quite there, but man, is he close. 72 contact versus righties, not great, but pretty good. Then 102 power, elite. 98 contact versus lefties, elite. 109 power, elite. 66 vision, not great, but not terrible either. And you might be saying to yourself, oh, well, to get offense like that, this guy must be a terrible defender at third base. No, fuck you. This guy is tremendous at third base. He is elite defensively. One of the best defensive third basemen in the game. And but that's not all. This card actually plays shortstop too. What if I would have told you at the beginning of the year that you could have a shortstop and play him at shortstop and get elite level defense, 90 plus defense in all aspects. Plus, he's going to have 100 plus power versus both sides with solid contact numbers to go along with that. You would be over there just whacking off just thinking about that, and you would probably be giving the middle finger to the Cal Ripken because he doesn't have that kind of power, especially after you knew what the hitting engine was going to be like. So this card is, man, he's got to be in your lineup. You've got to get this card in your lineup at least until you get the Cal Ripken or another shortstop that's better than this card. But I don't know if that's going to be happening, man. This card is boss. It's really good. And yeah, I don't know. I might kind of drag my feet on getting that Cal Ripken because this card is so good. But yeah, I ended up giving this card just a hair below the Frank Thomas, just because that contact versus righties might kind of get in the way of him being as good of a hitter as that Frank. But I ended up giving the Mike Schmidt a FAG of a 9.2. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this review video. I love you guys. I hope you love me. If you do, if you like this video, please leave a like. Leave a comment. Let me know if you disagree with any of these ratings or anything like that. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. That'd mean the world to me. And I'll try to get some more content out to you guys later. But yeah, I love you guys. I will see y'all tomorrow. But until then, peace.